This is your Week 13 fantasy update for CBS Local Sports. Adam Azer, Jamie Eisenberg, and Dave Richard here doing starter sit for Week 13, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Start with the quarterbacks, Jamie. Ben Roethlisberger, big week for him against New Orleans.
He's our start of the week on CBSSports.com, and I think you'll see him continue to play well like he has for the most part this season. 18 touchdowns, 1 interception in his home games, only one game under 20 fantasy points. His worst game was 19 points, and he's facing the Saints team that has to go on the road for a short week. So I think you'll see Roethlisberger come out and have a fantastic start this week, get back to where he was prior to those last 2 road games where he struggled. He's just better at home. That's the way it is.
Dave, I hope Phillip Rivers enjoys his Thanksgiving, his Thursday. The weekend might not be so good for him.
He's going to be the turkey for the Baltimore Ravens defense, and they did not such a great job against Drew Brees. You know Brees had some great numbers against him last week, but this is a tough situation for Rivers. He's banged up. He's on his 4th starting center this year, going up against a Ravens defense that's going to put a lot of pressure in his face, going to force him to take a lot of short throws. I don't see him finding 2 touchdowns at the Ravens.
All right, how about running backs to start and sit? Dave, we'll go to you, and Jeremy Hill is a start this week.
I'm riding this hot hand in Cincinnati, and I think the Bengals are too. I know Giovanni Bernard came back last week, had just as much work as Jeremy Hill had, but Hill did better. And going up against Tampa Bay, that's a bad run defense. I think Hill can keep it up. He can still get to 20 touches, can still find the end zone, and be a factor for your fantasy team in Week 13.
Latavius Murray, the hottest name perhaps in fantasy football, Jamie. 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards last week against Kansas City. Not this week, though.
Well, he's still dealing with the concussion situation. You know, hopefully he gets cleared to play this week, but I think he's going to struggle. You know, you look at the Rams' run defense. I know they gave up a big game to Ryan Matthews last week, but I don't think you're going to get that from Latavius Murray in this matchup. I'm nervous about him, you know, trying to live up to the expectations, live up to the hype. I think he's definitely worth adding, definitely worth stashing on your bench, but starting this week, not so much. I just don't think you're going to get the big production a lot of people were hoping for.
We like Kelvin Benjamin this week, coming off a bye at Minnesota.
Well, you got to like Kelvin Benjamin. I mean, the kid's been awesome so far this season. I think you look at this Vikings secondary, they're just not very good against opposing receivers. They did a good job in trying to take away Jordy Nelson last week for the Packers, but I don't think that's the norm. I think that's the exception. I think you see Kelvin Benjamin come out, continue to play at a very high level, be the focal point of what Cam Newton wants to do. You heard what the offense staff has said for the Panthers is we have to get him going earlier in games. And I think if that happens, plus the garbage time production he can potentially get because we know the Panthers are not very good, then you can see Kelvin Benjamin continue to just roll. All these other rookie receivers getting a little bit more hype than him right now. Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, he's been consistently very good. Should have another big week.
But not Sammy Watkins. He's not getting more hype. He's been pretty bad 3 straight weeks.
Yeah, I wonder if he's hurt. And he had an injury earlier on, honestly, 3 weeks ago, and he really hasn't been the same since. A couple weeks ago, Kyle Orton played bad, and we could point to Orton and say, bad Kyle Orton. You're the reason why Sammy's not getting it done. But Orton had a good game last Monday, and now I think Sammy Watkins is the reason to blame. Worse yet, he's taking on a Browns defense, that has Joe Hayden. They're going to put Hayden on Sammy Watkins. It's going to be a tough week for him, so I would try and stay away from him.
And tight ends now. We look at tight ends to start and sit. Dave, Kobe Fleener disappointed us last week. What about this week?
I don't think you have any choice but to go with him because he's such a big target in a high-powered passing offense. Listen, pretty much everybody in Indianapolis was a disappointment last week, Andrew Luck included. I'm looking for the bounce-back game at home against Washington. Martellus
Bennett at Detroit. Nope, no thanks.
Well, you just look at what he's been. You know, his game tails off after September. This is something that we've, seen the last couple of seasons from him. And he's just not been a huge focal point of what Jay Cutler's doing. When the other 2 guys on the outside are playing well in terms of Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey, Bennett is giving you just 4 for 50, 4 for 40, 4 for 60 as you see in the projection here. It's kind of being a little bit overly generous to him just based on the way that he's played. But I think it could be a shootout in that game with Detroit and the Bears. Hopefully the Bears trying to chase points, which will help Martellus Bennett. But touchdowns just haven't been there for him right now. And in a time when Timothy Wright can score 1 catch, 1 yard, get you 1 catch, 1 yard and touchdown, those 6 points can be very valuable.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving with the family, the friends, and of course watch some football, watch fantasy football today, set those lineups. This has been your fantasy football update for CBS Local Sports. For Dave Richard and Jamie Eisenberg, I'm Adam Azer. Thanks a lot.